way, it'll be available for replay later. So, again, I want to thank you for joining. Today's presentation is about helping you optimize your conversion rate for your website. So, really, just the gist of today's conversation is to give you some tips with conversion rate optimization. I know a lot of times in my field, been doing this for over 10 years now, it's kind of fusing trying to understand exactly what goes into CRO or conversion rate optimization, what it is, ways to be able to do that, how to identify your conversion rate, and a lot more information. So that's the goal of today's presentation, to break some of that information down, get you a better understanding of what goes into conversion rate optimization, and hopefully you walk away with a lot of information. At the end of the presentation, uh, just hold your questions if you have any, and I'll have a period for Q&A. And then after the presentation is over, I'll actually send out a follow-up email with the slides that are provided in this presentation. And then there's an additional ebook that goes into a little bit more in-depth information about CRO, that will accompany this presentation. Some of the information I'll present will be in it, and then it'll give you something more in depth. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. A little about myself: I am a full-time WordPress developer, Marcom website specialist. Um, Huge fan of technology. I've been doing WordPress development now for over 10 years. So long career, many different things I've done, and enjoy every bit of it. I get to wake up every day and help out nonprofits, government agencies, and B2B businesses regain their sanity and sleep better at night, knowing their website is doing its job 24/7. So I love what I do. I'm also husband, dad of twin girls. You might hear me reference them in this presentation, and a college football fan. So, you know, hope you're enjoying what's going on today. So, first off, why optimize conversion rates? Now, your conversion rates are measured by the percentage of people who take a desired action on your website. So, you want to make sure that your website is optimized for those desired actions. I mean, there are many different actions you can go into. Them reaching out, making a phone call, because there's ways you can click links that will they'll allow visitors to make phone calls directly from their smartphones. If you're selling a course, purchasing that course is a conversion rate. Or if you're providing a newsletter, them signing up for a newsletter. If you have an email course, signing up for that. Those are all different examples of conversions. And the average organization will get some or all on a regular basis. What you don't see is that for every one person who takes one of these actions, there are often 50 to 100 more people who actually don't take those actions. So the reason for the CRO, or optimizing your conversion rate, is to be able to capture many more. Now, I always tell people, don't expect to get 100% of them. That's fine. You don't want everyone interfacing with your organization, because not everyone's a good fit. That's just the nature of the beast. But you want to optimize your conversion rate with the plan of getting better. And later on in the presentation, I'll talk about data and testing and things like that. But you want to make sure that the data matches the goals that you're trying to set. Um, this is exactly why you do optimization. It brings in larger number of people who take the action that is actually desired. And your conversion optimization can have many benefits to your organization: a better ROI. Improving, your conversion rates means you'll be getting a lot more out of the time and resources that you put into your marketing. Increasing your ROI means a greater return for you. If you're offering courses or workshops, you have more attendance. If you have a newsletter, that means you're growing your audience. If you're actually selling a product, whether it's like a book, t-shirts, things like that, that means you're getting more money back into the business. Your donors, if you're with running a nonprofit, your donors are the lifeblood. of your organization. So, you're getting more donors because they're believing in the mission that you're providing. You're getting more insight is another example. You're understanding your audience a lot clearer. Using the messaging that you provide helps you really engage with them. You're bringing in a lot more people who are ideal, that match and associate with the mission that you're providing. And you're doing this to understand, not understand, you're providing more information to this audience to help them understand who you are, what you do. And then when you get more and more people who jump on board with the mission of the organization, that's when you get more and more of those desired actions, and you'll understand why people do what they do. And lastly, an improved user experience. Um, when you know what works on your website, you can do more of it. It's just like gasoline on the fire. You have a goal, you put the plan, or you create your plan, put it in place, and like I said, and later on I'll talk about testing, but you test what you've done, and the more that you test and the more data you get from the testing helps you understand, which is the previous point, you understand your audience, then that allows you to tweak your but different I mean, each of your plans allow you to tweak it to get a better conversion rate, and then this allows more people to come in and get a better user experience with engaging with your organization. Giving people a great experience on your website builds trust, so because there's always a no like trust factor, builds more trust, and encourages visitors to spend more time on your website reading, if you have blog articles, if you provide ebooks, just whatever information, whatever content you have on your website, it encourages a better user experience with them staying on your website. So today, what I'm going to do is run through what conversion rates are, why we optimize them, how to measure it, focusing on the data, what to optimize, testing your changes, and a lot more. So moving on, the first, types of conversions. So when we use the term conversions to talk about completion or of an action or desired goal for your website. This can be completing a contact form, signing up for your newsletter, purchasing a product or course. There's many different types of conversions, like I said before, and it's not just sales. This is a big misconception that a lot of people have when it comes to your website. Only about 2% of the people who ever visit your website are in a position where they're ready to convert. And like I said, it's so much more than sales. Conversions can actually be split into two main categories. The first is macro, which are known as primary conversions, and the second is micro, which are otherwise referred to as secondary conversions or small conversions. So when you think of macro conversions are split into three general areas: inquiry based conversions, which is something similar to filling out a contact form or actually making a telephone call for the website itself; revenue based conversions, complete order for a product, purchasing a t-shirt, buying a course, paid sign up for a subscription service. So many different ways you can do that. And then there's lead acquisition based conversions, which is someone signing up for a demo account or free account, completing an application, requesting demo of your service or product, getting a free consult. There's many different ways there. Now on micro, they can be divided up in three different ways as well. There are engagement based conversions. This can be time based, spending more than a minute on your website, or total amount of views of pages on your website in one browser session. That type of engagement based conversion can help lower your bounce rate. There are navigation based conversions. You can track users who visited specific pages. If you are a nonprofit, Google provides a ad grant of $10,000 per month. And what you can do with that is set up marketing automation systems and sending traffic to specific landing pages. So that's a navigation based conversion. You can also track the number of users who reach the end of the engagement, where it's filling out a form or you're sending them to an event registration form. There's many different ways there, but that's a navigation based conversion. And then there's action based conversions: signing up for a newsletter, downloading a brochure, Again, if you're selling things from your website, if they add a subscription to their cart, if they sign up for a paid consult, again, there's many different actions that they can complete. So now you want to think about your website for a moment. What's the most important macro conversion goal for your organization? And then take time to think about the micro conversions that can be made. And not every micro conversion will lead to a macro conversion, but many will. The easiest way to do this is to walk through your website and think about the different steps and actions that users can make and which of these you want to track. So just keep that in mind. We'll bring that up later on. But moving on to the second way to optimize is determining what is your actual conversion rate. And I didn't plan on being a math lesson today, but we have a math equation here. So um, with your conversion rate, you want to have an idea what your conversion rate is. You want to understand how you can work out your conversion rate. And there's something to consider before jumping straight in. You need to decide if the goal you're tracking is something that a user can complete every time they visit your website. Um, or if it's something unique that the user would only do once. For example, if you have a newsletter and a user signs up every time they visit, this is what you consider something that you can track of an actual rate. How many people view the form or view the section that where your newsletter sign up is, and then versus the amount of people who actually sign up. You want to track the number of sessions while calculating your rate. And if a user only completes the action once, then you'll track the unique users. An example would be signing up for an email course. There's a one time sign up, and it's not something a user would do every time they visit your website. So to work out your conversion rate, you take the number of completed actions, signups, and divide this by the number of visitors or actual sessions, people coming to your website, and then multiply by 100. So that's the equation there. C, which is the amount of conversions, divided by V, which is the amount of visitors. Take that number, multiply by 100, and then it'll give you your conversion rate. And bam, that's it. That's how you determine what your current conversion rate is. That's something I would suggest that that you track month over month, because it helps you determine how well the website is performing. With the amount of visitors versus them actually converting. And moving on to the next point, which would be emphasis on that, is data is the key. You want to make sure you're tracking all your data. There's so many ways you can do this. There are tools out there galore. Google Analytics is one. You can add conversions, a section called conversions in your Google Analytics to be able to track when people do, whether it's macro or micro conversions, you can be able to add that in there. Um, Without the data, you're left making decisions based on your feelings. And to be honest, that's the worst place to be. You don't want to leave your your efforts of trying to become better at marketing up to just a hunch. That's not how it's going to work. I always say this all the time. The devil's in the data. You want to look through the data to find out, to get the answers to the questions that you have. You might have a course that you've created and you're trying to figure out why people are not signing up. And then when you're looking at your analytics data, you're getting a lot of traffic, but a lot of people are not converting. So that can tell you that maybe there's some content changes that need to be made, or people are converting and not engaging in the course. Well, then maybe there's something broken in the process. I mean, but you never know. You can have a hunch or a feeling, but if you're not actively measuring with data, with hard facts, determining what's going on, then you'll be lost. That's one of the best ways, doing it with hunches and feelings. That's one of the best ways to waste your time and resources, which are two finite things that are almost certainly better used elsewhere. So, there are two key data methods that you can utilize. There's analytical data and there's people based data. You always need the analytical data first before you carry out any people based analysis. Um, some of data options, or one of the biggest data options, the quantitative analysis is the best of the data options that you want to choose. And again, like I said, Google Analytics is one of the best ones that you can do. With the Google Analytics, you can figure out how someone found your website. Which website or search engine did the visitor use to find out who you are and where you are. Um, this refer information is what it's called in Google Analytics. It's useful for tracking paid ads. So again, if you have the Google ad program, you can see how well it's performing, and also you can see how well your social media is performing. There's even an option there that says direct, or organic. That really means, well, the direct option means, are people directly typing in www.yourwebsite.org.com um, into the search bar? Are they directly coming to your website, or are people, where it says organic, are they organically finding you through the search engines, Google? Which, if it's in Google Analytics, it's going to be Google. So, are they finding you through Google? And then there's other sections you can find what keywords people are typing in. There's a tool called Google Keyword Planner that can help you determine what's the best keywords that you can use and optimize your website for. I gave a previous presentation about search engine optimization, and that was one of the things I mentioned. Using SEO to help optimize your website will also then help you with optimizing conversion rate. Which page the user landed on, and by landing on, meaning what's the first page that the visitor landed on or got to when they first came to your website. If they're coming from paid ads, if they're coming from social media, if they're coming directly, are they coming specifically to a page? There's an option again in Google Analytics that will tell you, or rank it, or sort it, I should say, um, what type of or how much people are visiting different pages on your site, and then you can organize it to show what's the most visited. Usually the home page, 9 times out of 10, the home page is the first one, so that's typical. And then behind that will be the other pages, whether it's a specific blog article or it's a landing page that you used in a paid ad campaign. Whatever it may be, if you have a product page or a service page that maybe someone's bookmarked and passed around, that information is there. It'll tell you exactly which page the user landed directly on. Another way you can find out the information, or another piece of information you can find out, is devices and browser. You can see the percentage of people who use mobile devices, smartphones. We're carrying these things around with us all day, every day. So within your Google Analytics, you can see exactly what devices they're coming from: iPhones, Androids, if they're using tablets, iPads, um, or if they're using desktop computers. There's an option for desktop, but you'll be able to see what devices they're using. That will help you um, do optimizations on your website. You remember in the previous one slide, we were talking about the navigational based conversions. That is one of the pieces here. If you're getting, which data tells us now that about 30 to 40% of people are using mobile devices, and that's increasing year over year. Um, if more people are using your website on mobile, then that would tell you, hey, we need to do more optimization, from not necessarily more, but we need to be more aware of the usage or the experience from the mobile devices, because people are using it based on the data. This is not a hunch. This is what the data is telling us, that more people are using the website on mobile. So let's make sure the navigation is good. Let's make sure that you're optimizing your images, because that's another thing. Performance is a huge thing. It tells you, data tells you that within the first 3 to 5 seconds, if your website does not load, people will leave it. So you want to make sure you're optimizing your images. And there are a bunch of other things. I won't go too in depth in that because it's a different conversation. But you want to make sure you're optimizing your visitors' experience based on whatever devices they're using. And then another metric that you can track within your analytics is how many users are abandoning your website. Another piece of that is called bounce rate. And I don't know if you may have seen that, but the bounce rate basically tells us how long people are leaving your website after arriving. So if they land on a specific blog article, that's the entry. That's where they landed, coming from social media. So you know that people are engaging or finding you through social media, and then they land on XYZ article, but only there for 10 seconds. Well, that's a problem because that tells us that people are finding us where they're finding this, which is social media, what devices they're using, whether it's a smartphone or desktop. And then it also tells us that they get there, but they're not staying. So if it's only 10 seconds, then that tells me, okay, maybe there's something, uh, on the site that's broken. Because 10 seconds is a very short time. So maybe that means, the site's not loading fast enough, or there may be some structural issues with the website that's preventing people from viewing the website that great from their mobile device. I mean, there's, so many ways you could do that. You want to know how many people are abandoning your website so then you can determine how long they stay on your website. Your analytical data will help you clear any issues and help you determine the focus of your efforts. And it's best to start with the pages who had the most engagement from your visitors so you can use that time effectively. And here's a tip. You want to block out your calendar, like I said earlier, on a month to month basis to look at the analytical data on your website. Make notes. Note what people are doing. Note, what how people are engaging with your website, and see how that matches with your goals. Come up with your goals to game plan, with your team, or if you're solo, to determine what your goals are for your website. We want to get more newsletter signups because we want to grow our audience. So that's one goal that you have. Look at the data. Does this data represent that your audience is growing? No. People land on the website not only there for 10 to 15 seconds on maybe one or two pages. Well, that tells us there may be something structurally going on with the website. Maybe the website's slow. Maybe there's some pages that are not showing secure on the website. That's another thing, because Google actually penalizes you for stuff like that. And some browsers would actually pop up a warning message and tell people that your website is insecure or unsecure. So, you want to think about those things. Set aside some time every month to look at the goals that you have for your organization, and then see how they match with the data. And if they don't match, then that's a starting point to understand what you need to optimize to help increase your conversion. So I hope that's not too much, but that's the best way to be able to utilize your data. So next, you want to determine what can you optimize. So just straight to it, there are 5 elements that you can optimize and change on your website to help increase your conversion rate. First, headlines. Your headlines are usually the first things visitors see on your page, and actually not even before they get to your website. If you've ever been on Google, and those titles that are above the snippets of text, those are your page titles or headlines for your pages. Those will appear in Google before anyone actually gets to engage with your actual website. So you want to make sure those are optimized because it speaks directly to the content that your visitors are looking for, or the problem specifically that you're solving. Best way, test variations that speak specifically to the problems your ideal client or your audience actually faces, the reasons, which is really the reason they're searching for what you do and who you are. One of the next elements is the website copy. So hey, your headline looks good, it's captivating, engaging, and what I like to tell people, it's conversational and it's direct, very clear. And they clicked on the link. All right, cool. We want to see what else they have going on. Now they've landed on your page. The text on the page needs to engage your visitors. I always tell people, when you're writing copy for your website, your copy has to be for your audience, not for yourself. One of the hardest things to do when you're writing website copy is to not sound so intelligent. I know that sounds crazy, but the worst thing that you can do is to talk over your audience's head. Website copy is meant to be conversational, it's meant to be direct, clear, and concise. You want to make sure that the message you're trying to convey to your audience is very easy to understand. You should be re-emphasizing the points you're making in your headlines in the copy, and make sure you focus on the visitor and not yourself. So limit the use of I and we statements, and using the word you a lot will very much drive that point home. Next, images. Are you using quality images? Are they clear images? Do they resonate with your audience? Are they optimized for size? One missed point for optimization that a lot of people don't may not know or sometimes miss, is only adjusting the size of images based on the container or the section of the website that are on. So what I mean by that is, for example, if you have an image that's 2000 pixels wide, which are usually the header images, but there's a section that may talk about whatever widgets, anything, but the sections for that image is that big. You do not want a 2000 pixel wide image to fit in that box. You want an image that fits the size of that box and that box only. The reason why is from a performance standpoint. If an image is that big, but that box is only a certain smaller size, the website, if it's not optimized to have alternate file types of that image, then your website will try to load the large one. And again, back to what I was saying earlier with mobile devices, if it's trying to load the larger image on a smaller device, then that will impact your performance. So that's something you want to think about. um you know don't just you choose any piece of stock photography on it. I mean, there are a lot of great and awesome stock photography databases, but just don't choose anything. You want to make sure it's something that suits your target audience, and just looks like you just randomly pick something. That's the worst thing to do. Images work hand in hand with your copy, but they also work hand in hand with your branding. It was something I mentioned earlier in a previous presentation, that the visuals, they represent your brand. Are they clean? Do they match the tone or the emotion that you're trying to convey in your copy? You want to make sure you're using those type of images. I mean, this day and age, data tells you that people are more visual these days, watching more videos, looking at more images than they are reading content. So if you're using visuals that are captivating your audience, then that will draw them in, where your website copy will send it all the way home. So just make sure your images are good. Another option, like I just mentioned, video is a great option. I mean, this webinar I'm providing, shooting videos, applying them to I mean, not applying, but uploading them to YouTube. That's a great way of showing your audience how your organization can benefit them. That's another point of being able to share valuable content and ideas, any type of research you may have done that is valuable to your audience. Or you can even use videos for testimonials, from previous clients that have worked with your organization. And with the newest thing, podcasts, there are video podcasts now, so you can use that to interview other professionals in the realm or scope of your services or products. And then that will also add that trust factor, like trust, the trust factor to your brand. So, videos increase the time a user spends on your website, and it's great to do that for your conversions, and also prevents a SEO benefit. Um, from the SEO side of things, that reduces the bounce rate. You're providing, let's say, for example, there's an expert that's in the field of study of sickle cell, and you have a renowned doctor who is willing to give a presentation or engage in a conversation with you, for your audience. And then you shoot the presentation, whether it's live or pre-recorded. The time people are spending on your website to actually watch that, because it's valuable content, will decrease the bounce rate, which then shows more favorable to Google, then what that does is push your website higher in the rankings because it tells them, hey, this is a valuable website, credible website. The content that they have, their audience are willing to stop and read. Let's give them more favorable ranking in the search engine so more people can find this content. I mean, it starts compounding from there. And the last element is your call to actions. They're the most important because they are the desired action you want your visitors to take. This could be filling out a form, downloading a free guide. You never want to use generic text like submit or click here for your CTA. You want to use something that's more descriptive, like download my free guide. And another thing is testing the colors. You should have a brand guidelines for your organization. So using those brand colors, you can twist and tweak which ones work best for your CTAs to help them to stand out from the other content on your page. And don't fret if you're not a web designer or confident in making those type of changes. I always say, let the pros do what the pros do. Stick with your in-house web developer. If you don't have one, it will be good to speak with a consultant or web developer who can help you, even the one who may have built your website or someone else, and ask them to assist you. Like, hey, we have a list of updates we want to make that'll help our conversion rates. This is the data that we found, and they should have expertise to help you um, implement those changes. And maybe even if there's a change you want to implement, that their expertise should help you also with saying, hey, this may not be the best because of this reasons, and they'll give you, concrete facts as to why, and then they can make an alteration or a constructive change to whatever tweak that you want to make to help you get better. So um, that's always good. Let the pros do what the pros do. So if you have a web designer, reach out to them and let them know what you plan on doing, and they can implement it. And just most importantly, when you're making changes to your web pages, only do one or two at a time. You don't want to track these laundry list of changes that you're making on your site, because then it'll make it harder for you to keep up with what's working and what's not. So we'll talk about testing and data on the next slide. So again, the next point is optimizing and testing. So whenever you're making changes to your website, test the results. Test, 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 test. There's a thing called A/B testing or split testing. And then literally what A/B testing is, you have, we'll just say for email, you have email A, email B. 90% of the content between the two may be the exact same, but the differences between the two may be this have one type of subject line, this one has a different one, this one might have an image, and this one might not. Those are one to two changes that you can tweak. You make those changes based on the data. So you send out both of those emails to segmented, sections of your audience. If you want to just split it in half and send it to 50-50. And once you send it out and you got all the data you need, like, hey, all right, this email B performed better than A. Okay, so that means email B has some good things. Let's take that email and let's tweak something else. Maybe we add a little more copy to it, or maybe we adjust the title just a little bit more, or keep the title, add images, more images, whatever. But you, without any testing, you won't be able to clearly define what changes are working for you. And split testing isn't something you do manually. There's software tools that can help you out. Google Optimize is one, Split Hero is another. One of my personal favorites is Hotjar. And again, at the end of it, after this presentation is over, I'll send you out an email that has a list of all these tools. Hotjar is one of my favorites because you can implement what's called heat maps, and using heat maps really tells you what people are clicking on, and then pairing that with your Google Analytics data will set your optimization on fire. All of these are easy to use, although the technology of things can be a stumbling block for some people. Um, Using those type of tools, they have documentation, but again, if you have a web developer, web designer that's on your marketing team, definitely reach out to them with your goals of what you're trying to accomplish, and they can recommend some good tools or help you implement a lot of them. But A/B testing works. Taking two versions of everything and making sure you're reviewing all of the changes that you're making. And with the testing, that helps you get to increasing the amount of conversions like we mentioned earlier, so you can start putting things on autopilot. Let's say you have an email guide you want to, I mean, not email, but a PDF guide, a free guide you want to get out there, and you A B test the landing pages. And once you get to a point where it's hitting your conversion rate, then you can set that on autopilot and move on to the next one. So that's the benefit of testing. Test the data, test what's going on, test all of your changes to get to the point of where things can be automated. And that's one less piece of marketing that you have to worry about. From the list of changes that you made previously, set up your first A B test. It's a good idea to use an important page that has a lot of traffic. So, I mentioned earlier, your homepage is usually the most visited page. Maybe find the next most and then make your changes from there. Set up your test by creating two versions of that page, and then use Google Optimize, Split Hero, Hotjar, whatever software you want to do to try to track those changes. And then once you run the test for at least 7 days, action the results, repeat, iterate, or watch and repeat. And once you keep doing it, again, you get to the point where it's optimized, it's hitting or exceeding your optimization goals. And then bam, you have something that can be set on autopilot and just let it run its thing. So, of all of that, I mean, those are all of the pieces of the puzzle when it comes to optimizing your conversion rate. Making sure you're setting your website up for success. So, like I said earlier, we have about 20 minutes left. If you have any questions, I see Audrey, you're the only one that stuck around. So, if you have any questions, drop it in the chat and I'll be glad to help. Okay, so is the C and CRO calculation always based on a call to action, and V in the calculation would be unique visitors if the call to action is something only done once, but would be all visitors if the call to action is something like purchasing a product. So yes, the C is always conversions. That's not call to action, it's conversions. That's what CRO, conversion rate optimization. So the conversion are is the action, whatever desired action, signing up for a newsletter, purchasing a product, um, downloading a free guide. Now, call to actions are the words that are, or the mechanism that is used to create the conversion. So, download my free guide. That's a call to action. That is a call to action, really means you are trying to persuade someone to complete a specified action on your website. So when they complete said specified action, then that's a conversion, if that makes sense. So the call to action is encouraging someone to do something. And when they done said thing, that actually converted them, or the conversion of the action that you wanted to do. And then the V is the visitors. Yes. So that's absolutely correct. So in that case, using the information you just said, um, you want them to purchase a product. So your call to action would say buy now. We'll just use that. I know it said not use generic. We'll just use it for easy explanation. So your call to action says buy now. They actually go through the entire process, check out, pay for it, got the receipt and everything. They convert it. So they landed from social media. We'll just go through the whole process. You get on Facebook, you put out this new course that you have. They click the link from the on social media on Facebook. It takes them to the landing page. They view everything. This is after you've done all your tweaks. You have your call to action. Your call to action says buy now. They click on it, put in their card information, check out, got the receipt, thank you, email sent out. They completed or converted or completed the action that you wanted to do, which is the conversion. Now, if you have 3,000 visitors sent to your website, that's the V portion of the calculation. So then, if you have only 300 people completing the actual conversion of the 3,000 people, that tells you your conversion rate is 10%. So that's how that works. So the C is conversion, not call to action, but the call to action is the emphasis on the conversion that you want them to do. Good question though. If Yes, yes, you can drill down the data within Google Analytics. It'll let you. They have actually, that is actually one of the default settings in there. It'll tell you users, all users, and then there's unique users, which usually means that all users is everybody, and unique users are first time visitors, because people can come back and they'll get calculated. So if you visited a website and then you came back the next day, you'll be bucketed under both unique and all. And if you continuously come back, you'll still be counted. The number under the all visitors will go up, but the unique visitors would not, because once you've done it at least once, then you're not considered unique anymore. So you're not a visitor, you're now a member, if that makes sense. But yes, they it'll let you separate out what's unique versus all the visitors. No problem. No problem. Any other questions you have for me? I'm glad. That's great to hear. That makes me feel great. I try to provide as much value as possible. I'm an open book. I love teaching. I love educating and helping people. So that is great to hear that you're getting value from it, and expect it. I will be sending out some follow up emails as well. So there's quite a bit of information that's going to come out. I appreciate you for attending. CRO is a very ongoing and repeatable process, and you can test as much information as you like, and it's never an end to it. There's always ongoing ways that you want to increase your CRO or your conversion rate through optimization. So, and like I said, and I'll continuously repeat, testing is always the way to know for sure what changes you're making is making the effect of moving the needle, as we like to say. Um, and data, again, the devil's in the data. Always track your data. I know now Google is operating under their current analytics program, but in July, I think it's July 1st, if I'm not mistaken, they will be retiring the old platform, and then everyone would have to start using GA4, Google Analytics 4. And I will do a presentation about that one day. But basically, it's their more updated, privacy focused version of it. But anyway, just jump into Google Analytics, read through your data, use that information to help you with driving your decisions, because that will help you say, I mean, just completely honest, it'll save you time, it'll save you money, and it'll save you having to create another headache for yourself. As long as you're tracking everything, you'll be able to know what you're doing. So again, I appreciate you for attending. Thanks for taking time out your day. If you have any more questions, anything, any of those follow up emails, reply to them. If not, there's the link to my contact page. You can book some time on my calendar. Oh, let's see. If you set up your GA4 property, do you need to do anything to your non GA? No. So there's nothing to be done to the old one once you set up the new one. It's literally just replacing one for the other. Now, there isn't a one for one migration. That's something a lot of people have brought up to Google. Like, is there like a migration effort, a migration tool to bring, a lot of people that, for example, I work also with B2B businesses, and they utilize a lot of lead gen campaigns, and they wanted to be able to bring in their conversions tracking that they've set up in the old universal analytics platform over to GA4, and there's not anything currently in place, I don't think, as of yet. They may be making some updates for that because there's been a lot of kickback about it. But no, once you set up GA4, as long as there's not a code change for the snippet, that you have to implement onto the website, that'll probably be the only change that you'll have to do. But outside of, like tweaking any of the dashboards and all that other stuff, there's not anything else you have to do. You literally would just drop one and start using the other, and that's it. Good questions, though. Good questions. No problem. So I'm assuming that's it. I appreciate your time too for stopping by. Again, that's the link to my contact page on my website. So if you have any questions about anything, whether it's WordPress, website related, anything like that, feel free, book some time on my calendar, and I will be more than happy to help. Again, I appreciate your time and have a good rest of your day.